for now. Anybody out there? Okay. So someone put on a message, perhaps it'd be a good idea. Back loud and clear. Okay, thank you very much. All right, any more questions? Or shall I just carry on talking? Yeah. It's better if I've got someone here looking after this. We should raise this better next time so that the image is better. It was better 2 weeks ago when we did it. Your phone went down. Yes, it did. It said on it was overheating. So I'm now on the computer, which is an old computer, so that could easily overheat. I must say I'm surprised at the phone overheating, but you know, it is taking a hell of a lot of information, isn't it? So that's what it does. Yes. Okay. Well, any more questions to type in, or I'll just carry on with something? Someone asked about PCR tests. I think, yeah, let us be clear. The PCR tests were fraud all along. And again, they were just devices, excuses to stick something inside you. As we know, that stuff up the nose was a bit of a scam to stick something inside you. I'm just going to raise the level of this in a second. Which no, it's on this computer. Right, that should be a little better. Sorry about all this messing around, guys. We should get a proper sort of studio setup here. We've improved a bit, but not very much. What do y'all think of the Reform Party and what's going on in the elections? Yes, well, I think Reform and Reclaim were created essentially to pave the way for Keir Starmer, i.e. take votes from the Tories in the wider picture. But Reform and Reclaim standing now in the mayor elections is, of course, to put themselves on the map, and it is, generally speaking, a point to take away votes from Tories. But on the other hand, you know, their main mission right now, with like all of us, is to get rid of Sadiq Khan, and who replaces him and how is an issue. But as I pointed out to all the parties, as far as I can communicate with them, is that I am best placed to take Khan's votes, being an ex-Labour person, and also having a lot of support from the Muslim community, because I work with them. It doesn't mean I support Muslim terrorism or anything in any way. I mean, Muslim people, Christian people, all of those people. I mean, but I do have support, and I'm working with Muslims in Canada, for example, to support the various things that have been happening in there to help get rid of Keir Starmer. But let's be clear, the reason why I can get support from Muslims is because I stand clearly for peace. I am the peace candidate. All the others, Reform and Reclaim, for example, and GB News, if you could call it a party, but it helps them, helps those Reform and Reclaim, support genocides. Well,
this is not going to generate votes from ethnic minorities, and especially Muslims or Bangladeshis and so forth, you see. So I am well placed to take votes from Sadiq Khan. So it's in the interests of the Tories, Reform, any of the others, that I should stand, because it gives them all a better chance. Now, of course, my view of this is I could be able to break through the middle, if you like. And if we get adequate funding to register for this election, then I will be very well placed. So I would urge people to go onto the unitedfront.uk and give money and find people with large sums. Right now, it's kind of a seed corn thing, put money in, but it's getting late. We've got to have, huge amounts in about 2 weeks' time. So please go there, do something, talk to other people. It's going to be a very interesting election. There's going to be massive non-voting, boycotting major parties. But, if half the people I've met who said they won't vote decide to vote for me, when I would win. And we know what's happening in Rochdale. We know, I would say, it's racing certainty, that George will win. And I've sent him messages of support. I said, we support you. We want you to win, to get rid of the Starmerite nonsense. Of course, the Labour guy got into trouble there by making overtures to some sort of ceasefire, end of hostilities, end of genocide. When he came out quite effective on that. But that was too much for Starmer. So, of course, they then axed him and then replaced him and so on. So it's complete chaos. We have to oppose this warmongering. The British government has, it's shipped arms, £250 million recently shipped to Ukraine. They've sent 88 Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Now, that is a hell of a lot of tanks. And 88 is HH is the late letter of the alphabet. That stands for Heil Hitler in the minds of Russians. So, the Russians are not very pleased. And of course, in Palestine, British bases in Cyprus are being used to bomb women and children in Gaza. They're also being used to bomb Houthi rebels in Yemen. Houthi rebels have been bombed because allegedly they've been stopping ships or upsetting ships heading for Israel with arms and so forth, or just heading for Israel. But there's a lot more people, Houthis, being bombed who are nowhere near the coast. So the idea that they are part of this operation is ridiculous. It's an excuse. So let's be clear, I will be the peace candidate. I'll say we've got to end NATO. We've got to leave NATO. We've got to negotiate with Russia. We've got to have an international conference, a total ceasefire and international conference on the Ukraine. And we've got to have an end to all the genocide happening now, all of it. Not this nonsense from Starmer of, what does he call it? Ceasefire. What is a humanitarian ceasefire? You're sitting for a bit to allow some food to go through? Well, why not stop bombing hospitals? That would be a big start, wouldn't it? It's just placatory, because at the same time, Keir Starmer and others dress up in military uniforms. Well, what does that tell us? It means they want this massacre to continue. And of course they do. So I would be the peace candidate for London. And the mayor does have powers, obviously, internationally. The mayor of London does call conferences. He's chair of the C10 cities, which is the zoning of cities around the world nonsense. Well, I'd call a conference of that and say, look, man-made climate change is nonsense. It doesn't exist, and I'll give them proof. And we've got to end this. Some other countries might not be welcoming of this, but if I'm chair of it, I will. In terms of what's happening around the world, obviously the mayor of London has a say, as anybody. Because look, guys, this is the big issue, because
We can talk about ULEZ. Obviously, people know I would end ULEZ straight away. Lots of things. Housing. I would do huge things to end the housing crisis. But this counts for nothing if we have war. And it's clear the powers that be in the World Economic Forum are moving us towards a war. They're recruiting soldiers as we speak. So I will be the peace candidate as the one issue in my campaign as mayor. But please help me get there. Go onto the unitedfront.uk, give some money, find people with money and point out to anybody in any other party, look, you want Corbyn on there because he's going to take votes for Sadiq Khan. That will, whatever party you're in, it'll help you, relatively speaking. We can't all win, of course not, but it will help. Any party serious out there should be making sure that I get there on the ballot paper, and you guys can help that with small amounts of cash now, and big amounts of cash. Those of you who've got £1,000, do it. 25 people at £1,000 is 25 grand. It can be done. There's people out there with £1,000. If you're serious about the movement, this must be done. So please, 1,000 people at 25 quid. That's also doable. Please, a mixture of them all. That's what we need. Just go there, do it, pay what you can, bring in support. Okay, there's a lot of little stuff in the live chat there. Your phone went down. Well, it did. Yeah. No, the phone's still there. Well, it did. It said it was overheating. Yeah. Is it coming on now? Let's have a look. Yes, it's come back on, but I'm not going to use that. I'm using the computer instead. And if you need to know my number, it's 07958713320. So if you're interested in more stuff, text me and I'll text back stuff about the election, for example. What is England without English people? Well, yes. Well, it's a piece of land. Okay, but look, come on. England is more than a piece of land. It is English people. Yes. Are we being outnumbered and swept away by all sorts of open immigration encouraged by Tony Blair and others? Well, of course, that they want low wages to come in. I mean, the percentage of people coming in is I don't know, what is it? 7% of the population are ethnic minorities. Maybe it's 10%. I don't know. But, they're allowing immigration completely uncontrolled and not actually on things when they're supposed to be obviously helping genuine refugees. I think all genuine refugees have to be supported. But let's be clear. The powers that be want ethnic minorities to undermine wages. And the trade unions should be saying, look, anyone who comes have to fight for the same wages. That's what has to be done. And but the priority has to be people who are genuine refugees. I hope that answers that basically. But, it's everyone who's here has a right. We've got to have rights to jobs, rights to fair income, rights to housing. But I think the answer is build more housing and get rid of the empty properties which are there purely for speculation. I mean, London is it's the money laundering capital of the world. That's why we got so many empty properties here. The empty properties are not caused by immigrants. The empty properties are caused by speculation. But the councils have to give priority to people who are on the waiting list, and we shouldn't have anybody jumping waiting lists. But we don't need waiting lists if we tackle the empty properties too. I mean, there's a whole lot of issues there. But whatever, I have a proven record of dealing with housing. Got 200 people housed from the barricades in 1975 in Elgin Avenue, Paddington, London West 9. And following that, the GLC gave tenancies to 10,000 squats. Our motto being no evictions, housing for all, and make use of all the empty properties. Okay, but back to the big question. There's no point in this discussion if there's going to be a war. Right. Jack the Russ,
Do you have enough backing to gain the publicity required for mayor?
Well, once I stand, of course, we have to make sure we get publicity. But again, it's more money, guys. 20 grand is needed to get on the ballot paper and deliver a piece of paper for every door. 10,000 deposit, 10,000 charges for the information booklet, which is the cheapest way of getting something through every door in London. Think about it, guys, please. Those who are asking questions or thinking about it or listening, please go on that website and put something in there, even if it's only a tenner, just to show, show you're serious. Anything between a tenner and 25 grand. Okay.
Okay. It would take some major effort cash to get the traction required.
Yes, it will. There are people talking about bigger amounts, but there's only talk. Okay, we need us, you listening, to show you're serious and put something in there.
Okay. Yeah, more about immigration and the housing crisis, which we've covered. There's room for more discussion, I agree, but we've covered that for the time being. The leaders of respective countries need to get onto the front line themselves if they have any disputes with their counterparts. Stop sending innocent people to be murdered and be murdered.
Absolutely. Yeah, all these world leaders rattling about, well, what are they rattling about? I mean, what is the issue in Ukraine? The Russians are threatened by NATO, so they retaliate in response of people who want to be part of Russia. Well, that is reasonable. If a referendum is the answer to what happens in East Ukraine. And we know what people in Gaza want. We know they want to be in Gaza and govern themselves and not be occupied. I mean, that is crystal clear. It's just wrong what's happening to them. It's just wrong. And this isn't being anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish. Everybody in the area known as Palestine or Israel or whatever has a right to, live in peace. So, I stand for peace and an end to the genocide immediately. And all these MPs who have refused to vote to end the genocide and played games in Parliament to pretend they're doing something have to go. They have to go. We don't want them back ever. And that means you campaigning and supporting me.
Okay. Waiting lists are decades long at some level.
Yeah, that's true. They are. I was outside Lambeth Town Hall yesterday. Lambeth has got a fair number of empty properties which are doing nothing. And they want to evict some people in order to put others in. I mean, this is crazy. They're deciding that there's some priority over people who've already got housing, directly or indirectly through the council, because some of them come through agencies, whatever. It's a monstrosity, yes. Shouldn't be any waiting list. You shouldn't need to wait for a human right. Right, easily said, but as I said, there are measures on the terms of empty properties.
Okay. Yeah, we can. It's going on about the numbers here on 100,000 empty properties.
Yeah, well, less than 1 month of immigration. Well, of course, yeah, look, the immigration is completely excessive. I agree with that. But you have to be clear that people with families have rights to join up genuinely. And there's probably a lot more than 100,000 empty properties, but because of the way they're kept empty. There's also the issue of the government wanting to move more people into London from outside, you see. So although a lot of Londoners are leaving because of housing prices, we do have to look at the country as a whole. But a fair point. Anything involving the figures, you know, as mayor, I would look at all the figures, absolutely, what's going on, and is you can't just wish things to happen without resources. But as a mayor, I would have resources at my command, and the mayor of London has given away their housing. Successive mayors gave away all their housing to the boroughs, so it's the boroughs that own council housing. The mayor should, you know, reinstate powers to build housing, and the renting of it has to go through the boroughs, probably because of the waiting list issues and you know, rights of people, priorities of people. But there are ways to do it. Council housing is the answer. Secure council housing is the answer. When we take over empty properties, would say to those landlords who are owning properties without revealing who they are abroad, I would say, well, you know, they should be confiscated if you're not revealing who they are. And when you do reveal who you are, well, they should still be brought into use. It's now an era where housing is cheaper to build than it's ever been in the history of the world. And we have the biggest housing crisis in London we've ever had. This is crazy. It is crazy. It's because we're allowing this rip-roaring speculation and money laundering. Okay. Yes. Okay. Any more questions? I see this is moving a bit. What's going on here? Oh, there's a question going back there about the cotton buds which went up the nose were laced with something which gave you something. Yes, I agree with that. So far as we understand it, the reason why they wanted to shove it right up the nose was so that it would go past the blood-brain barrier to the brain and put something in the brain. I was in hospital for a short time during that and was asked to put something up my nose, but I said no. And then they said, oh, you can do it yourself. So I got this thing and put it, just touched my nose basically and said, there you are, I've done it. And they stopped arguing and took it away. You see, in a hospital, you have rights. You've got absolute rights over your body. They cannot impose anything upon you. This is the Nuremberg Code. They pretend to you that you know, you can't do this or that unless you agree with some restriction or injection or meddling. You have to say no. In hospitals, it's good to have somebody with you, because if you're not feeling too well, you might find it difficult to argue. But you know, no is the best word. We covered those. Oh, here we are. Ukraine has a lot of empty houses since almost everyone has fled. Well, true, but I'm not suggesting people move to Ukraine because of empty properties. Look, the killing rate of people in the army in Ukraine is 7 times that of the Russians. 7 times. So Ukrainian youth are being mutilated. They're being killed. There's women and children being shoved in the Ukrainian army. Look, it could have been ended, but Boris Johnson went there to continue the war. They want the war. They want depopulation. They've got some plan for Ukraine, which is massive decimation of the population, countryside, and doing what, I don't know. But it's a bit like in Hawaii. The burning, well, turning into dust of all that area through directed energy weapons is part of a plan to do something big and horrible in Hawaii. It's I don't know, hotels for the mega rich, playgrounds for the mega rich, who knows, but something like that. All of these firestorms have been associated with massive land grabs. That's what was happening in the Greek islands. But anyway, back to the Ukraine. Yes, the war must be ended.
Bojo is a mobster working for the international clique. Yeah, absolutely right. That the French have passed or are passing legislation to enforce medical intervention. Yes. Well, we have to say no. Yes, we have to do no. So that means, you know, if this is happening in a hospital, go there in numbers and say no. Disrupt what they're doing. And doctors, to get rid of the World Health Organization dictates, there are things to do. And by the way, there's a demonstration this Saturday, 1 o'clock in Brixton at the Rush Square, which will be interesting. I'll be speaking there. A number of people will be speaking there. And we're saying, well, the chant is WHO, the people say no. And the practical way of defeating the World Health Organization's impositions in the name of disease X will be, or is now, go to your doctors in campaign groups and say to your doctor, we want you to pledge not to take any money or do any injections, take any money for injections or do any ejections under this WHO plan or government plan or whatever, some scare story. Don't do it. And if they don't agree, move to another doctor. There will be some doctors who will agree with us. So people go to those. Just it's like a boycott, if you like. Boycott WHO doctors. Boycott McDonald's because they're feeding the Israeli army. Boycott all those shops which are doing dodgy things in support of the genocide. I'm just looking for some more leaflets to hold up. Yeah, well, this is one about new normal. Let's get the boycott leaflets, just to remind you. You can download these on stopunormal.net or also on the United Front _Palestine, or indeed the United Front Telegram groups. So in lots of places, or the Piers _Corbyn _Stop New Normal. There's links on there to download the PDFs of those. Hopefully we'll get more printed soon anyway. Another message here. Trump says he can end the Ukraine war instantly if he gets in. Do you know what he is proposing? Well, yeah, what he's proposing is end military support for Israel. Simple. That would end it. It would end it. I think he's serious, but of course, you see, Trump has also been promoting vaccines, injection programs. However, let's see. I mean, if he's saying that, let him do it. And I think that is very interesting as an idea. Obviously, I would support ending of all these arms shipments to Israel by whichever country. And the biggest one, of course, is the United States of America. So, good. I think it's real, if you're asking me. I think he really is saying that. But when the time comes, what excuses are there? Because, of course, he's come across as a very brazen supporter of Israel. That doesn't mean he supports genocide. He probably supports a two-state solution or something. I say the future in Palestine and Israel has to be negotiated with all the people there. They might want a two-state solution. They might want a democratic state of in there covering everybody. I don't know, but that's the key is end the genocide. Peace now, and I am peace candidate for the mayor elections. So please do what you can to support. Now the time now is 19:56. We're meant to end at 8 or then about, maybe a couple of minutes after. Let's mix the vaccine the vaccine people need in the food, so we don't have to listen to the complaining. What could be a more brilliant than that? Trust the government. I see.
Yes. Well, so far as these things can be put into food, I'm sure they have that in mind. There's been a massive increase in poisoning of food in the last few years. There's things in Oreo and Quaker oats which reduce fertility. And of course, these things are eaten by children. It's deliberate. It's a world depopulation program. Look, it's scary to think of it, but that is what is here. We have a war. There's a war in our bodies as well as the physical war. I'm, of course, saying stop all these wars on our rights, on people, on our bodies. I am the peace candidate.
Okay. The agenda to keep this war going is real. Not one Western leader has even contemplated peace talks with the Russians in 2 years.
Exactly right. What is the Mayor of London doing? He'll say he's against this or that. He'll go along with the flow a bit. He knows Islam people obviously are really upset about the war. But what has he done for Islam people anyway? He's destroyed their businesses by the ultra low emission zone. I mean, he's an agent of the World Economic Forum. He's paraded around as somebody to catch people. But look, Muslim voters are not stupid. Other voters are not stupid anymore. People are wising up to this. Sadiq Khan is going to lose, and I will win. Okay, you guys think, wow, that's quite a statement. But look, think about it. Think about it. I'm saying the only thing that counts to a lot of people, if they think it through, peace is the issue. If we don't do that, we're heading towards a world war. And all these things about housing, ULEZ, education, which I haven't talked about, are minor, very minor if there's a war. What sort of war? Well, it could be bombings, it could be whatever Russians get up to, because the Russians must be very annoyed with us. Very annoyed. As I said, 88 Leopard tanks to Ukraine. The air bases in Cyprus being used, bombing Gaza, and so forth. And the Russians don't want any of this stuff.
Are you aware of the case that viruses do not exist for real and have never been properly demonstrated? See Kaufman and Cowan.
Yes, I'm fully aware of that. And I wrote a letter back in 2020 to the government and to Boris Johnson to say, under the Koch test, there's no evidence for the existences of, well, we were specific about the COVID virus because that was what was in front of us. But it's also the case, there's no evidence for any virus ever. They are something else. They are bacteria eating things, whatever. It doesn't mean people don't get ill, but they get ill with many things. And these are labeled as viruses. That was the universal thing. But we don't understand it, what it was. It's a virus, okay. So the major things sort of not quite alive, which is what a virus is, or they may not be. I'm favouring they don't exist, die. And in practical terms, they don't exist if they can't be isolated, do they?
I don't eat either. What's this? He's eating either something. I don't know what he's not eating either of. Khan is finished. He's getting assassinated. Well, yeah, I'm not promoting assassination.
We've got to defeat him politically. There will be people that will scream and shout at us. Look, don't scream and shout back. Say, look, guys, do you understand what's happening in the world? Are you aware that these things are a con? Are you aware that more people are dying now than were dying at the height of the so-called COVID crisis, when in fact all they did was renamed deaths by flu into deaths by flu. That's what they did. Someone says, well done, and exactly, Piers. Well said. I'm not sure which it was about that I said, but that is very good. So, guys, look, we are now at 2002. Oh, a symmetrical number, isn't that nice? 2002. Yes, well, I think we should draw to a close because I know people do other things, and they might want to go and look at Sean's continuing channel. He's going from 8 to 9. No, 7 to 9. He's got 2 hours. So, guys, look, come back next week. We'll have it better organised next week and make sure I'm on a machine that doesn't collapse. But this computer's actually worked this time. It feels pretty warm, but not too warm, I think. Yes. Okay. So, please support me getting on the list as the peace candidate or as a candidate for anything. But look, you know what I stand on everything, but in the end, peace in our time, no world war, is the agenda we must stand by. So please go to theunitedfront.uk, pay something, just a tiny bit, whatever, pay it, and then fill in a email to contact@theunitedfront.uk and pledge something to be given by mid-March. When we've done the sums and see who's paid what. On Sunday, 8 p.m, I'm going to be appearing on UNA with David Clues, and I'll be putting some of these points there and other things he might ask. And on Monday at 3 p.m, I'm going to be on the Charlie Ward show along with Matt Tissier. And there, for all of these things, we want people to pledge money either online or on the site, as I said. So please, it's down to you in the end, and you'll be in charge. If I'm the mayor, we'll turn over things completely. Mayor's question time will be a great big rally or whatever, you know, but we will have actual questions instead of, well, what happened? I went to the last one. I was thrown out of City Hall. They wouldn't even tolerate me asking a question. Well, no, I was going to watch questions being asked. They wouldn't even allow that. But I would have real questions from the audience, as well as elected members, of course. They have to have, you know, the full rights to ask questions first, but then leave time for the public. Right. Coincidentally, my mum died just 18 months after receiving 1 dose of our medicine. No. I know. It's horrible. It's horrible. Always nice to hear from you, mate. Never smoked or drank. She was pure. Oh, that's the mother. Sorry, Phil, blah, blah. I suggest an interview with Richard Vobes here on YouTube. Okay, look, anyone who wants to interview me, please, yeah, you know, put them in touch, promote. We can win, but it's not that we must win. We must win. And me, you know, I don't often promote myself like this, but me being a candidate will make such a difference. It will help all the parties. They should be putting money into my campaign, all the parties apart from Labour, that is, in order to make me stand, make it possible. Because I don't have 20 grand. Last time, 3 years ago, it was a loan, very complicated, but anyway, we got the money by other means. We didn't have to raise so much this way. We did raise a little bit this way. Please, we have to do that. Jack the Russ ends by saying cool, and it's now 20:06. So I'm going to end there, guys, and say thank you very much. Put myself a bit straighter. I don't have my t-shirt on, and I will say resist, defy, do not comply. Thank you, and get in touch. theunitedfront.uk.